So, just out of curiosity, I decided to call her back after she sent me an email saying that she needed to speak to me urgently. When I called her, she delivered some pretty bad news to me while crying. I learned that my brother had unfortunately been in a really bad accident. It was a hit-and-run case, and unfortunately, because of the impact, he had slipped into a coma, and there was no telling how long it would take for him to recover. This had happened last week itself, and just 3 days after, the doctors had said that things were pretty critical right now. My mother had decided to call me up and inform me about it. At first, I thought that she was going to ask me to visit him and be there for the family, which I would have been ready to do because, in spite of everything, I think that this is a huge deal, and it would have still been a reasonable enough expectation to have for me. I don't want to turn my back on somebody who is in such a terrible condition. But then, my mother went off in another direction altogether and said that she wanted me to be there for Karen and my nephew. I didn't even understand what that meant, and then she told me that she now expected me to step up and be there for them in my brother's place. When I asked her to elaborate, she told me that now that Chris was basically not even there anymore, I had to be there for Karen and her child in every way whatsoever. She did not mean just financially, but she actually expected me to step up and move in with them so I would be able to take care of them. She said that she would have taken them in herself, but she was not getting any younger, and it would be too much work to take care of all of them. That's why she was calling me to let me know, and she expected me to make a decision on the phone call itself. I obviously lost my temper because, for 5 years, she did not speak to me, and now when she was finally talking to me, she expected me to do something so big. I could understand that Karen and her son were all on their own right now, and they needed somebody to be there for them, but that somebody should have been someone from their immediate family and not me, somebody whom she had betrayed and then not even bothered to apologize to. So, obviously, I immediately told my mother that I was not going to do any such thing and that she was foolish for even expecting me to say yes to that. Then, she started arguing with me on the phone, and I didn't have any time to waste. I was already pretty pissed off, and I did not want to ruin my mood while speaking to her even more, so I just hung up and then blocked her once more. I tried to go about my day as usual after that, but I just couldn't stop thinking about what Chris and Karen were going through, and I really felt bad for them. But I obviously was not going to do what my mother had asked me to and take my brother's place in their family because that was just weird. He was still around, he had just slipped into a coma, but it was not like he had passed away already, and she was acting like he was gone. I was feeling very iffy about this entire situation, so later that day, I decided to call my father instead because I thought that he would be more reasonable than my mother. It was very awkward to speak to him after 5 years of no contact, but after some small talk, I asked him how Chris was doing, and he told me that things were not looking too good right now. Then, I told him about the conversation that I had had with my mother earlier in the day, and I expected him to have some reasonable insight, but instead, he also said that my mother was right to expect that from me. That really took me by surprise because my dad was usually the more level-headed one out of both my parents, and now even he was saying such weird things.